We're going to look at these relationships between the notes. We're going to look at these distances between the notes. We're going to look at how to work them out, how to find them on a piece of music. And we're also going to look at the different types of relationships that notes can have. This is Ashley from Ashbea Music. Today's stream is going to be all about intervals, the distances between the notes. Just like we have relationships, we have families, we have friends, different people who we interact with. Notes have relationships as well. Just like one person on their own can't do very much without the help of other people, one note on its own doesn't mean very much. It's only when you put that note with other notes, either one after the other or on top of one another to make a chord, that these notes start to make sense outside of just being notes. You establish relationships with these notes, and these relationships mean something. Emotionally, musically, they have significance beyond just being notes. So without further ado, let's start looking at the easiest way to figure out intervals. We're going to start in the treble clef, and I'm going to write 2 notes down. What is the distance between these 2 notes? The easiest way to work this out will be to count the number of letters between the 2 notes. This will include both our starting note and our ending note. So these are the 5 letters we have: F, G, A, B, and C. And notice we've counted the F and the C. This equals the interval of a fifth because we have 5 letters. Let's try it with another interval. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 other notes. This time I'm going to go for a bigger interval. We're going to go from here up to the top space. Well, we have to count the letters between A and G, but also include the A and the G. So this interval turns out to be a 7th, because there are 7 letters between the A and the G, including the A and the G. So this is the easiest way to work out an interval. You can do this just by looking at a piece of music. Now, just to go through another way of looking at your intervals, you can find them out by also looking at the visual distance between the notes. You don't need to just figure them out by using the letters. You can also figure them out by using how far away they are on the music as a guide to find out what the interval is. So, as we know, notes can exist on both lines and spaces. And in this case, we can actually figure out the number of our interval by looking at whether our notes are on lines or spaces. So this is an easy visual way of looking at your intervals. Right, so here's how we work this out. If your notes are going from a line to a line, or from a space to another space, this will make your interval an odd number. So E to G, that first interval from a line to literally the next line, that interval will be a third. When we go to the next line up, missing out one, then the odd number gets higher. We go to the next odd number. And then when we go from the same E to the D, this time now we're missing out 2 lines instead of 1, this interval will be a 7th. So this is an easy way to figure out your intervals by sight. When you're sight reading or looking at a new piece of music and you want to figure it out really quickly, because you will always be faster at sight reading if you look at your intervals rather than trying to read every single note on the page. This deals with our odd numbers. Now we're going to deal with our even numbers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this in a different clef to prove to you that it works regardless of clef. So we've got G, 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 and G. Same G in all 4 examples. If you see a line to a space, or if you're going from a space note to a line note, this interval will be an even number. We're starting on a G, and we're going to literally the next note up in the first example, a couple more notes up in the second example, a couple more notes after that in the third example, and higher still in the last one. So in this case, G to A, the first one is a second. The second interval is G to C, from a line to the next space up. This interval is called a fourth. Same thing with the next interval. So this interval will be a 6th. And for the last one, this will be an eighth, which can also be written 8VE, because this is short for octave. And just like an octagon is an 8-sided shape, an octave means that there are 8 notes between one letter name and the next note up or down of that same letter name. Intervals also make up scales. So we are now going to check out the relationships between the intervals in a scale. So we've got a C major scale here. What are the intervals contained in this scale? Well, first of all, we're going to look at the relationships between one note to its next note. And we're going to see a pattern here. C to D, how many letters are there? It's from a line to the next space up. So this interval is going to be a second. D to E, there's only 2 letters in that interval, so that is a second as well. E to F, surprise, that's also a second. And that pattern persists through the entire scale. From one note to the next note in a scale, the interval will always be a second. But those are not the only intervals we have in scales. We can get wider intervals from scales as well. C, D, E is a third. 4 letters, a fourth. 5 letters, it's a fifth. C to A is a sixth. And C to B is a seventh. The final interval in a scale, when we get to the same note we started from, but higher, is an eighth, or an octave. And these are the wider intervals in scales, and you'll find that these are true of any scale as well. Doesn't matter if it's a major scale, a natural minor scale, a harmonic minor scale, a melodic minor scale. These intervals, these distances, these relationships are contained in all of these scales. Hey, this is Ashley. Thanks for watching this video. Follow us on Twitch to catch up with future streams, and subscribe to our channel to not miss future videos in this series. Here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like. We'll catch up with you again over there.